Hi guys, how you doing? I hope you're all well. Today I just wanted to share a brief video with you on trauma, just explaining what it is, what it looks like, and how it can play out in different people's lives. And I think it's really important to be aware of what trauma is, because it's usually a big part of a lot of the clients that we do see in social work. I hope you guys find this video beneficial. If you do, definitely give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get right into it. So what is trauma? Trauma is basically any kind of experience that's emotionally or physically distressing to a person. It could be in the form of, experiencing a natural disaster. It could be in the form of experiencing domestic violence. It could be in the form of experiencing child abuse. It could be in the form of going to war. All those kind of traumatic events impact on a person, leaving trauma in their body or in their brain. So trauma is something that, even though you may experience it years ago, you might still hold it in your body or in your brain years and years later on. The reason why you tend to hold it in your body years and years later on is in that time when you were experiencing whatever the traumatic event was, your body's response to that was the fight, flight, freeze response, which is automatic for all humans. Anytime we face any kind of stressful situation, the cortisol, which is a chemical in the brain, is released, and that's what causes the fight, flight, freeze response. So you either fight whatever it is if you feel like you can, you either flee from it, which is run away from it if you can, or you freeze when you feel helpless. So however you responded to that kind of traumatic event tends to be however you respond to, other situations that might be safe, because you're so used to responding to things in this way without even being aware of it consciously. For example, for someone who might have social anxiety, who may have experienced trauma as a young child, if they're in a social situation, even though they're in a safe situation, subconsciously they still believe that they're unsafe. So then that's when the fight, flight, freeze response comes to play, and it's shown in the way where they become shaky, or they become really anxious, and they start thinking to themselves, oh my god, what's this person saying about me? And it just makes it worse, and their body just starts to feel more and more stressed out. For someone who may have experienced child sexual abuse as a child, probably in the time that they were being abused as a child, the way they dealt with that was to freeze, because they were so afraid and they felt helpless. And as a child, even though they were in pain, they were unable to know that whatever was happening to them was not okay, and they could tell someone about it or whatever. So they will probably just freeze and let it happen to them. As adults, even if they're in a safe sexual relationship with someone, they might still do the freezing thing, and consciously they might feel safe and might not want to freeze, and might be willing to open up to this person they're about to have sex with. But because as a child this is their response to sex, they do it subconsciously without even noticing. So they'll probably just freeze, and that can become an ongoing issue. So that's how trauma can play out in someone's life years and years after the traumatic incident has happened. And this is why it's always important to try and identify the underlying problems of what's happening. When you're doing an assessment, make sure it's thorough. Try and find out childhood experiences or any experiences that have happened in this person's life, because it would be the best way to provide support to them. Because when you're aware of the trauma, you realize that it's not the social anxiety that's the problem. It's not the freezing in bed when they're about to have sex with their husband or their wife that's the problem. It's not the being depressed that's the problem. It's not the anxiety that's the problem. There's always an underlying factor, and that's why it's important to identify trauma, know what it is, and make sure you're working to identify that and work with that before you start looking at the surface problems. Because solving the surface problems doesn't really help, because they're always going to come up, because the underlying problem is still there. So yeah, at my center, a lot of counselors use things like body work, meditation, and things like that to help people that have experienced childhood sexual assault, to help them, recognize, feel their bodies and recognize their body and try and be present more and things like that. So that's a way of working with trauma. If you're not skilled in that area, at least being aware that trauma can be an issue and can be impacting on the presenting issues that the person is presenting with will help you to refer them appropriately to a service that can address those traumas whilst you address the other things that the client might be presenting with. So yeah, I hope you guys found this video helpful. I know it was a short one, but I'm sure you get a thing or two out of it. Yeah, and if you guys have anything that you know about trauma that I didn't share in this video, definitely leave it below. And yeah, I guess I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.